intro, Steven.
Powered
Gotta get
by
a new intro
Riverside.
music. All right, enough of that. All right, welcome back. We're back. We were off for a little bit,
We've been
but
off for a little
we're
while.
coming in hot. Three guys, many games. I'm Steve Sombrato. I'm here with my brother, the legend, the GOAT, Vinny Sombrato, and today is a very special day. I'm glad we're back. We got a very, very special guest, a Syracuse legend, a national champion, a Hall of Fame member, person who's won multiple awards in the NLL, MILL. He's the director of lacrosse at IMG, his new project that he's developing. We have Tom Hollywood Marichek.
Yeah.
Give me my hand. There we go. How you doing,
Oh, standing ovation. Standing O.
That was a lot of stuff. I'm doing great, Stevie, Vinny. Doing very well. Thank you.
Good to see you, Tom.
Hold
Yeah.
on 1 second. I'm having a technical issue.
Oh, boy.
Okay. I found this on the web for Hey Syracuse legend national champion Hall of Fame member person has won multiple awards in the NLL MILL. He's the director of lacrosse at IMG is his new project that he's developing. We have Tom Hollywood Marichek. Get my hand wheel, get my hand. Here we go. How are you doing, Tommy? Am I losing the
Okay.
There we go.
What happened there? My computer decided. See, this is artificial intelligence. It takes
That's
over.
impressive.
You
That
know,
sounded like Alexa.
that
That
was wild.
was impressive.
So we're happy to have you, Tommy. This is great. We're really excited. You know, we've been off for a few weeks. We're back to talk lacrosse. None better to talk to this great legend, Tom Marichek. You know, how's it going down there? We were just talking before we got on. You know, first and foremost, everything in Florida. How did that all work out down there with the storms?
Stevie, it was definitely. I've been here 5 years now with my family. It was the worst one we've had. Helene came in and destroyed Anna Maria Island, and that's a huge landmark for the people here in Bradenton and Sarasota to go to. It's going to take some time to develop that again, and it's sad for the families that do come here and drop their kids off because they love just going 12 minutes, 15 minutes over the bridge to the island and relaxing. So, yeah, unfortunately, that's going to take some time. We're very lucky though at the academy. Nothing's really been too hurt, just some fences and a few roofs, but nothing too badly. But you know, we expect it, like I mentioned before the show.
And then you got to double up. You got to one, and then right away.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I didn't even think about the other one coming. My little 10th grader son looked at me during Helene, and literally that morning, when it was over, he goes, "Dad, you know we have another one coming." I wanted to slap him in the back of the head. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But he was right, and this one was worse. In our area, not as bad as at the beach on the island, but it was worse near IMG Academy.
That's you know, we hope, obviously we hope everybody's safe down there. I mean, it's a recovery. It's becoming a recurring thing every year. Things to worry about. You know, you just pray that everybody, more importantly, safe. Houses can be rebuilt. Things can, come back. It's the people that ultimately, lose their lives. That is the biggest tragedy of those type of events. But we have a visitor. Let's see. He's decided
here
to
he
pop in.
comes. Here he comes.
Well, we won't worry about him. One of the things that I was so really excited of having Hollywood on the program is, obviously we do a lot of college. We did the college lacrosse season each week. We stayed true going to the PLL and doing all the field lacrosse. So we really haven't talked much of the box, and obviously, you have an extensive box history, and really they just came off of the box world championships upstate in New York that were just played, and I wanted to get your thoughts on what you thought of maybe potentially the U.S. starting to close the gap a little bit in learning the box game.
No, Steven, you're exactly right. I thought, the U.S. are close. Even when you and your brother Vinny played, a lot of Americans started the league back in the MILL days, and Canadians started coming in. But Americans are good athletes. They're bound to be, getting better at box lacrosse just from experience and the right coaching. I think a lot of Canadian coaches came over to the States, and that helps a lot to teach the Americans how to play real box lacrosse, the pick and rolls and everything. And no, it was amazing. I thought the U.S. did a great job, and they're only going to get better with the talent of these kids.
Now, the Wings being your team when you played in the Pro League, obviously we played against you many, many years. How many years did you end up playing in indoor?
12 full seasons. 12
full seasons.
94, 94, and I believe
Steven always I do things a little differently. Steven jumps ahead. He goes right into box. I like to give people so they understand the history of this guest.
Hold on a second,
Right?
Vinny. Hold on. Vinny, hold on a second here. You started
my
out
God. Man, look at the North just showed up.
Oh, man. Tommy Marichek, how you doing?
I'm good, brother. How you doing, Rob?
Good. Go ahead. Go right into it, Vinny. Go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
So I want to go back to, you're a kid growing up in British Columbia, your start of your career, because I know, like Steven, you had an older brother. You had Billy Backhand, your brother, the great crease guy from Canada, who was a hell of a player himself.
Right.
So I guess I would assume that he probably got you started, and you lived in a pretty good hotbed for lacrosse growing up, right?
No, Vinny, you're right. He did get me started. I was the age of, I was 6.5, I believe. And my brother came back from being in Ontario for 2 years playing junior A lacrosse and junior B. He came back, and I was just signing up for baseball. So my first sport was going to be baseball. He came back and he literally took my baseball glove and chucked it over our ninth. He's like, "You're not playing that wussy sport. You're going to be playing this sport." So he threw a lacrosse stick, this heavy Logan box lacrosse stick, in my hands, and I was like, "What the hell do you want me to do with this? What the heck?" But to his credit, after school, he waited for me to come home, and he taught me how to catch and throw. It took a long time, like lacrosse isn't that easy to pick up right away and catch and throw and learn the tools, but he stuck with me, and that became history after that. I loved the sport. Played box lacrosse. Obviously,
Did you start with box? Were you playing any field, or you first playing box?
No, Vinny. We had no field lacrosse until I think the Gates were 14 and I was 13, and this was just club level organized. We still don't have field lacrosse in schools like we do in the States. So we just organized this team called Victoria Seaspray. My age and the Gates age, they're a year older than me. They had the Pepper twins, Robbie Dillon, and I had, myself, and it was just going over to Vancouver, playing a couple games, and that was it. We didn't have a league, but that was later. So it was always box lacrosse. I think the Gates and Peppers started box when they were 4 years old. I was a little later. I was 7, but it was box. It was box lacrosse, Vinny, all summer long, outdoor box rinks and arenas that we would take a ferry to Vancouver to play these other teams in Vancouver.
Wow.
What's the age difference of your brother?
Billy's 13 years older. He's he'll be 70 next June. But
well, I'm 10 years older than Steven, so we
got that gap too.
Exactly. It's funny. My brother was so great because we had this 4x4 goal in the driveway growing up on Shelburne Street, and we'd use tennis balls all the time. And my brother would put the pads on. He'd have box leg pads and shoulder pads and a box goalie stick. And everybody at school always came to me. He's like, "Oh, I just saw you and your dad shooting on the front driveway." And I'm like, "Well, that's not my dad. That's my brother." and
That's great.
It was funny after that. But yeah, Billy's been a big inspiration in my life. And it was when I got to that age, I think I was 16, 17, and the Gates as well, they were a year older than me. We moved up and played for the men's Victoria Seaspray team with the greats like Kevin Alexander, my brother, playing with guys that are 10, 13 years older than us. And ever since that's when we started learning the field game more and more and more.
Yeah, well, you definitely were around some of the greats in the game. Obviously, the Gates. Maybe some people listening don't know that much about Kevin Alexander, but he clearly was one of the top players ever. He was a master in box lacrosse, but I think he is a damn good field player too. Face off,
Yeah.
did a lot of things.
How do you actually pronounce your name? Sorry, Vinny. Let me jump in here for a couple questions. I see 42 in the back. I would assume that's you let a player wear 42 at IMG, or is that your number?
Yeah,
That's his number.
I didn't know.
It's mine.
It says IMG. Excuse me, Vinny. I'm not an expert here.
I love this. I love this. No, you know who's 42 is my oldest son. He's a post grad here. So my son, Kerner Marichek, he's 42 right now. And Cade Marichek, who's a 10th grader, loves Paul Gate.
Mm-hmm.
So he's number 19.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's great.
Well, that 42, I think, hangs up in the rafters in Philly, doesn't it? Didn't they retire your number in Philly?
Yeah, Vinny, very fortunate to have it retired back in, I want to say 05, 06.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool seeing that up there.
Small's retired number up in Philly.
That's pretty cool.
Philly, yeah.
I never got a chance. Hey, listen, and I always pick on these guys because they're easy to pick on, but I've heard your name so many times, Marichek. I can tell you all your awards, and I'm only around the game.
Well, he passed the Smalley test already. We know the one Smalley test already.
There's one.
He's a national champion. He won in college. That's the only thing that.
We know so much about him. He didn't know that he wore 42.
Hey, Marichek, are you
all right, slow down. Slow down. You came in late.
Are you an American?
Slow down.
I want to see if he's an American citizen. Are you an American dual citizen?
No, I'm actually. I don't know. I might get deported if I answer this.
This is the kind of questions he asks.
Exactly right.
Go ahead.
I might be deported, bro.
I come in once in a while. Go ahead.
Small. Sit down. Be quiet for a little bit.
My kids are American. My wife's American. I kept my Canadian status, but I could obviously get dual if I wanted to. I'm just a little lazy on this, but thanks.
So I'm going to go back. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
from your brother. You're learning playing with older guys. You're playing with Paul and Gary. So your next step is, you're coming out of high school and.
Well, did you ever get any Minto Cups? Did you win any of those Minto Cups or Man Cups?
Yeah, Steve. So that was the hardest trophy to win in my life. I played in 1985 was my first Minto. I know Gary and Paul played in 84, but the Esquimalt Legion was the name of our team. Now they're called the Victoria Shamrock Junior Shamrocks. Victoria Esquimalt had all those childhood friends that I mentioned growing up, the Peppers, the Gates, Robbie Dillons, Mike Simpsons, Darren Rysacks. Those are all our kids we grew up playing a youth league with. We lost in 85 to Game 7 against Joe Neuendijk, famous hockey player, Warriors. 86, we went back to Coquitlam. That was the first kind of round robin with 3 teams instead of just the best in Ontario, best in British Columbia. So that was Coquitlam, us, and Peterborough. Peterborough won in 86. 87 was back in Ontario at St. Catharines. That's with the Kilgore brothers. Jimmy Veltman was Brampton still. Kilgore's and Rodney Tapp and guys like that you remember. So it was them. It was Peterborough and us. Peterborough won it again. So now they're on a two-year winning streak. Finally, in 88, the Gates last year, the Peppers last year, half our teams last year, because you graduate when you're 21.
So what is it for the Americans that probably are not familiar with how the Minto is the junior league, the Man Cup is the senior league? How does the age work? Like what you're allowed to play in Minto to what age? What age would it go to?
21 years old. So you cannot. Yeah. So 21, you have to you graduate up to seniors. So that's why it's hard to win the Minto Cup because you have a small window.
Right.
Man Cup, you could be 55 years old like Gordie Howe,
right,
and still win Man Cups, right? So that is why it's so hard to win the Minto Cup. So finally in 88, we had it back in Victoria at the famous Memorial Arena, which is no longer, unfortunately, probably the best lacrosse arena you'd ever play in. It held 5,500 fans. They're on top of you. It was just this big, huge coliseum made for box lacrosse pretty much. we won it. We finally won the Minto Cup in '88. And
So what age are you playing Minto Cup first? Like what year? Like it starts like 18 and you're playing 18 to 21.
Yeah, I was
college situation.
I got brought up. I think I was 16 when I first got brought up. 16 in '85. I was turning 17 that year. So
you're playing against 21-year-olds when you're 16.
Playing against 21-year-olds that are 220 pounds, 6'3". That I just thank God I was a little quick to run away from those guys. But I had a good stick. I've always had a good stick, so that helped me along the way. But yeah, very good experience. Minto Cup, never take it back. We've never won it since that '88. Unfortunately, Victoria's never won it. So they've come close a couple years, but it'd be nice for them to win it back and bring that cup back to Victoria.
Were you playing hockey at the same time also, or did you play any?
No, Vinny, it's funny. I was born in Ontario. I was born in Kitchener, Ontario, which is a big hockey town. We lived in Ottawa for a long time. A lot of snow in Ottawa, very cold. If I grew up on the East Coast, I would have definitely played ice hockey because you're there. You got basically rivers you can skate on all year. It's cold there, and ice times. Anytime you want to go skate, you can skate. When you go back to British Columbia, you have minimal ice times for practice as a kid. Yet your dad has to get you up at 4 a.m. before he has to work, and my dad's like, I'm not taking you at 4 o'clock practice. So if I was an East Coaster, because I've always loved the NHL, I've watched the NHL. Boston Bruins were my team. I would have played ice hockey, but I chose soccer instead, Vinny, and I was a pretty darn good soccer player. I actually liked soccer a little bit more than lacrosse when I was a young age, and I was a striker in soccer and a right wing in soccer, and I became pretty good. I made a semi-pro team called the Victoria Shooters in '86, and it wasn't until '89 when I got that phone call from Roy Simmons, and this is a pretty interesting story because I talked to Syracuse. Gary and Paul mentioned me to Roy Simmons and John Desco, and I haven't heard from them in 9 or 10 months, so I kind of gave up on Syracuse. I'm like, yeah, Gary and Paul were already there. I'm just going to concentrate, go to a community college, get some kind of trade or degree. And I got a phone call in 1989, January 1989. I remember this so specifically. It was gray, dismal, wet, like it always is in Victoria in January. My mom's knocking on the window. She goes, Tommy. And I'm like, I was ready to buy books for the first time. So I pulled back and put it in drive. I'm like, what? I thought she wanted me to go get bread, milk, everything for the house. So she goes, Simmons is on the phone. I'm like, what? Simmons is on the phone. I'm like, what do you mean Simmons? I haven't heard from him in 10 months. So I picked up the phone. I'm all nervous. He goes, Tommy, it's Roy Simmons Jr. from Syracuse University. How would you like to come to Syracuse on a full ride and play with your buddies here? And can you come next week? I said, sure, I'll come next week. Yeah. So the rest was history. So I didn't get there until January of '89, and we were so fortunate. We had a great team already. I played attack right away with John Zilberti and Greg Burns, and we had a loaded team because they just won it the year before in '88, and we won the national championship that year in '89. Then the '90 was the continuous with some say one of the best teams ever in '90, but it was so that's how my Syracuse career started.
Sounds like the dream team.
And you were with some Port boys, Rodney Thompson and Keith.
Oh, I love Dump. I love Dump. I got pictures of Dump. We played golf in April when they retired Paul's jersey. We went up there in the dome, and Dump and I said, I got to hook up with Dump. One guy I got to hook up with Dump because I haven't seen him in years. We played golf. Oh, we had so much fun, just like old times. It was great.
Yeah.
Great guy.
We were definitely in awe of those Syracuse teams for sure. I mean, those are legendary teams. Obviously, our close friend Pat McCabe as well.
Oh, I love Pat.
And teammate. So what else you got, Vin? I saw you.
No, so here you are. You get the call to go. Obviously, prior to you and Paul and Gary, you had some Canadians that had a lot of success in field lacrosse. Mike French probably being the first, I would say, when he played at Cornell. And, his skill set, the shooting. The Canadians, you guys just seem to have an edge from a stick skill standpoint. Your shooting was more precise. You played in tight quarters. So if you played with the right kind of guys who could feed you, you were deadly. Gary and Paul
Yeah.
kind of added the element. I played against, so Frenchie is a little older than me, Mike French. And then I played against Stan Cockerton, who, for a guy who could fit in a glove compartment, this guy was dynamite. He was unbelievable. I mean, the
Yeah.
scoring ability he had, the skill set he had, and then of course now the Gates come in and they come in with that same skill set, but also with size, so that was like a
Yeah.
total package, but I do remember their freshman year. It was a little bit of an adjustment to the field game for them that I saw that I can remember. But you seem to,
Yeah.
when you came in with them there already, and just, I would assume they must have given you a lot of confidence in your game coming in there, because you hit the ground running. You scored, I think, over 40 goals as a freshman, which is a lot,
Yeah.
especially for a team that the scoring could be so balanced, because you have so many different guys that could score on that team.
No, you're right, Vinny. I was very blessed to have Paul and Gary, because let's face it, we're like brothers, together. We played together in box lacrosse, and we knew each other. We knew our where everybody was on the floor all the time in box. So yeah, very blessed to have them. They made me feel so much comfortable, because hey, I'm leaving. I'm 3,000 miles away, right, to Syracuse, and I was nervous, and I'm like, I'm leaving my family, I'm leaving everything. So Paul showed me the campus. He showed me around. I'm getting those pink slips to get into classes because I came late. I was nervous I wasn't going to get into classes that I needed. So it was great to have them there. But I'll tell you something. All the field cross I didn't play against the best defenders, because let's face it, Canada didn't have the best defenders. They didn't know how to really work along. But I remember one practice, and it was Pat McCabe, who I love dearly. Him and I are still close friends. He came over my head and just stripped the ball from me on a 1-on-1, and I was like, I got to get better at this. So I literally just took my time after practice, had him, I had a couple other defenders, and just got a bucket of balls and just learned to tuck and run.
Hey, Tommy, so, what were your weaknesses? Like what you thought, like coming over the head and stuff, you knew you had to protect it? What were your biggest weaknesses?
Yeah, protection. My weakness was my left hand, Rob. My left hand was my weakness. I had to use my behind the back. That was my left.
Oh, you went behind? Wow.
Yeah, so my weakness was left. I think I laugh all the years I played box, probably 8 left-handed goals in my career, but I don't think anything was outside of 6 yards. But yeah, that was my weakness. I wish, looking back, I think I could have scored even more points if I did have a more dominant left hand. But, like John Zilberti was amazing. John Zilberti as a feeder from X could go lefty, righty, and you wouldn't even know what hand he was.
So they didn't double team you. You didn't get double teamed coming around?
I got double teamed. Yeah, I got double teamed, but I learned how to protect my stick, and I got better with that, and I just dished it off if I didn't have a shot. I was looking at old film back in 90, 91. And it was funny, and I would say I wish I had more of a left hand. I was more of a finisher. I was on the crease. I came out on the wing. I could feed. I did a lot, but I didn't play one position. Some guys are just a creaseman. Some guys are just feeders and dodgers. I kind of did a little bit of all of them. I was definitely a finisher because I learned that from Kevin Alexander, how to finish, and I became really good at that.
See what he did, Smalls? See what he did with his hands? What you always say, they know how to move the stick. Did you see?
Nobody. Let me just explain something before we go on, because I got to.
You're an expert on this.
I got to catch a flight, Vinny. I got to go down to Erie, Pennsylvania. But Marechek, a couple of things I wanted to ask you. Playing with the Gates, right? They were such mentors and such big. But they had to find their first win too, because when they went there, they didn't win their first year. Am I correct?
No. In '87, they were freshmen.
So you won it. No. You came in a year later, correct? And you won it.
I was Smalls. I was actually supposed to come in '88, the year of the Air Gate, where they won it the first time since '83. They didn't have the scholarship money available.
Oh, I thought you were coming in that year, so you missed that year.
No. That's why I haven't heard from them in 9 or 10 months. when I got that
Oh,
phone
okay. They
call.
didn't have the scholarship money.
Yeah, that was all scholarship money. Exactly.
Yeah, so you came in, mid-year. You came in January, you said, right?
Yeah, I came in January,
It's
and
unusual. Yeah.
yeah, and the
Imagine today, Tom, these kids are freaking out. September of their junior year, if they're not committed, they're freaking out already.
hey, we just went there, and that's my job at IMG is trying to
Tommy,
help.
you
It's a
think you
tough
could play in
job,
the game?
and it's tough.
I always pick
Yeah,
on Vinny. You think you could play today in the pros the way they're playing their game today and the fast pace like that? Hold
not
on.
right now.
He would have.
Let me.
Smalls, I'll
I
answer
haven't
that
finished.
for
They
you.
won't let me
He would
finish.
have. He would have
I'm
an
talking
easy.
All right, let
about
him finish, Stephen. Let him finish.
They take one part. Then I know he's great. I hear from you guys, but I'm saying, would you have to change your game a little bit to play today? Be more faster, be in better shape, eat better. These kids are everyone. You got this is what I said to Vinny. You got number 1 players great, and you got number 20 player great. So you got so many good kids playing today, as opposed to years ago. My thing is they're better today because you got 12 players better, and years ago you had 6. I know you. I'm not talking about the Gates. You guys were the greatest. You have so many better players today. 1 through 12, 1 through 20. That's what I'm saying. Would you have to adjust your game?
No, you're
today?
right. Yeah, well, there's more of a cadence, Smalls. There's more of a cadence now that everybody does have to lift. Nutrition's a big piece of this. Mental coaches, which we have here, we do such a great job preparing kids at IMG for the next level, which is college. I would definitely think so because every kid can shoot on the run now. Every kids are the same size as Paul and Gary, as you can see. It's amazing, the growth of these kids and the parents paying a lot more money for trainers than you've ever seen before. There's so many more recruiting showcases out there. Club teams just took over the world. There's still no loyalty in that whole club system because they jump ship like anything. But there's just so much involved with that. But yeah, I think the nutrition coach is huge. The mental coach is huge. Strength and conditioning, sports science. We have a sports science coach here at IMG where we track, the endurance of every kid's through a monitor on a vest. So we have everything monitored through computers of every kid. Sometimes we got to lay
have a
off
vest
some
that
running.
you put on a kid. Each kid's got a vest, or you got one vest.
We got a vest for every player here, girls and boys.
And when do you monitor them? After the game or during the game?
During practices, during
Wow.
games, we give it back to the sports science coach, Katie. She monitors it, takes it to her computer set, and we see if these kids are running out too early. We got to make sure they're ready for the spring because at IMG it's the same. It's a spring season, and although they play 9 months a year here,
That's amazing.
it's still a spring season. Yeah, the burnout factor is huge, so we got to make sure we monitor that.
Like Vinny says, I'll give you credit, Vinny. Less is better to play less and not every day, 10 hours a day. Okay.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think to answer your question, Smalls, I actually think Tommy would have an easier time playing today than maybe even Vinny or myself because he was such a great finisher. You put him around good players, if he's getting the ball in any way, shape, or form in a scoring position, he's putting the ball in the goal.
In all due respect, if you put me around the Gates, I might be an All-American. How about that? No?
There we go.
Tommy,
It always comes back to being about him. It's all about Smalley. It's all coming
If you're
back
around
to
the
Smalley.
Gates, no? I mean, those guys, come on. They're Superman.
Well, I'll say this because I looked it up a little bit. The one thing I saw, not only how many goals you did score as a freshman, which was a great number of goals, but also your shooting percentage was above 50%, which is amazing.
Oh, that's
how many
good.
guys
Yeah.
are shooting
Yeah. That's
50-something percent? So, that speaks to your accuracy and your ability to put the ball in the goal. You see guys today, maybe they score 3 goals, but they're taking 15, 16 shots to get 3 goals,
Yeah,
But,
true. Yeah, I've always had percentage.
I've been lucky that, I started playing at a high level in the 70s, and I played so long, I saw the game change. But to me, everything new came from what was old. It's like there's adjustments along the way, but the game is still the basis of the game, the give and goes, your positioning, how to get open, all those little things, pick and rolls, all of that stays the same. It very rarely changes. Guys do little modifications of that stuff, but I'm like a big believer in some of these coaches today watching old film and seeing how it was done. There's no question the skill level, the sticks are better, the gloves are better, every part of that is better. So, and Smalls is right. From 1 to 20, I used to say, if you came when I was playing in college, and we were warming up and we were in sweats, and you didn't see the numbers or anything, if you just watch the warm-ups, you could pick out the 5 best guys on both teams in a second and say, that must be this guy or that guy because they just looked better, playing. Now I go to watch some of these college games. Every kid's freaking ripping shots. They're hitting corners. I'm like, look at this guy, and then I say, that kid looks great. And the guy will say, he never gets in a game. I'm like, what? You don't play? I'm like, why not?
Crazy.
What is that kid missing?
So many good kids, Vinny. So many.
No, there are, but that's the job of like how you say you develop your players at IMG. You have to give them past the skill level and all that other stuff you just mentioned, the nutrition. You could have all of that 100%, but a kid's got to understand where to be on the field. He's got to learn how to play with other guys. If a kid can do that and fit in seamlessly, with just if you have that real understanding of the concepts of the game, it doesn't matter. You could play on one team one week, play on another team and just like move in there. Some kids can't do that, And I think to me, the best coaches give a kid an ability and teach them how to be able to fit in and play with all different styles.
Hey, as far as the guys years ago, the greats, we all know the Gates, the Maricheks. I don't think your generation, I'm not going to really pick on you, Marichek, so much as Vinny and them. I don't think they give credit to the guys of today like the Jeff Teats. I think the Jeff Teats, those names are just as big as they were years ago. Your names are so highlighted that I don't think your generation of players, although they were amazing, are giving enough credit to the Jeff Teats and all these players. I believe this kid, if he has another 2 or 3 good years, the way he had 60 points, he's going to go down as one of the greatest 5 players in the game. What say you on Jeff Teat on that statement I made? That's for the fans anyway. I got a couple of things from the fans. Do you think that Jeff Tate is going to be rated, if he has another 3 years, as the greatest 5 in the game?
Is that for me or
that's for you, Marichek?
Yeah, like I said, the kid had a great career, obviously at Cornell. He's a great box player. Played for Brampton Excelsiors in box, Junior A. Dan Teat played against us, Steve-O, Danny was a good player in his own right. Jeff Teat is special. He's good off ball. He's good with the ball. I don't watch him. I watch a lot of other people. So I can't just zone on one hit kid like a Jeff Teat. Look at Brendan O'Neill, incredible U.S. World Games last year. That's one of my son's favorite players because he's a left-handed attackman like my son. There's a lot of good talent out there, and there's so much more parity as far as talent goes. Not just college parity, so much talent of players.
Well, he scored 63 points this year with the next guy. This is very interesting, and Vinny knows. He scored 63 points when the next player got 39. So the level,
wow. Yeah, that's incredible.
I'm just bringing it out of 1 year. It's 1 year. I don't want to get crazy, but if he has another 3 or 4 years like this, I got to put him in with the greats. You guys may not. You may think it's.
No, I don't know. It's unfortunate, Smalls, that when you talk about the greats, you talk about college lacrosse a lot of times, and it's a shame that they like talking about the greats that won national championships in college. Unfortunately, Teat did not at Cornell, but let's see what he does on the U.S. team. I think the greats are all combined with your college experience, what you did in college, and what you did on the U.S. team. I think you got to account for that. And I'm even going to go further. What did you do in pro indoor lacrosse? You got Paul Rabel. Yeah, he's known for being one of the greatest, but I kind of like the whole package deal if you were a great box lacrosse player as well. with the U.S.
Well, that's what I'm
men's.
talking about, Jeff Teat being. What's the award we're giving out, Vinny, this year? What we come up with an award, Joe?
Hybrid award.
We gave out the Hybrid
Hybrid
Award this year. Let's go with it.
and indoor and outdoor.
That's
He's fixated on Teat for this year, which
I know.
I think he had a historic season. I think he's a phenomenal player. But when we go into different, we've had conversations on the show about different guys covering him in a game, or how teams try to cover him. Or look, the kid's a natural born scorer. Period. There's been guys like him before too that score, but he's definitely, you got to rate him up there. But Smalls tends to be, he jumps on bandwagons. If the guy goes down to 40 points next year and somebody else has 60, you won't even hear Teat out of him.
You want to talk about all the old school guys? I don't hear you guys giving credit to the young people playing today.
Yes, but we just said that there's more players depth-wise that are better than the old school guys. We give you that.
I just gave you a point. If he's 3 years, if he does this another 3 or 4 years with 55 to 65 points, he's got to be in there with all the guys of your era.
He's in there now. I don't even think he has to do the next 3 years. I think
he's got a little work to do. He's got a little work. Yeah, let's move on. We'll move on. Go ahead.
Between his indoor and outdoor, I think he's proven himself. The guy is, no question, he's proven himself. But it goes back to what I said before. This is a team sport. He played at Cornell. He had a lot of great players around him. And you always tease me. You say you never won in college. I played at Hofstra. Like I was supposed to win national championships.
Vinny, I didn't say that. I said you're only not. That's not coming from me. Well, you didn't win in college.
Make you understand. Any one guy can be stopped in this sport.
I understand that.
They're stopping one guy. Okay,
so I said, let's see what he does in the next 3 years. Let's move on from there. Move on.
I want to ask Tommy, because going back to the box championships, one of the things we saw, they appear to be closing the gap. But going back to my history, one of the things I've always said in terms of developing, whether it was field or box, when I came out of school, there was the MILL at the time. So that was the game. That was the only game in town. So I was fortunate enough to start to learn playing indoor during those years in the 90s. Okay. I truly believe that it made me a much better player overall for lacrosse, much better for field than I would have been without having that opportunity to play. Now, I played in those 90s when there was Baltimore guys were playing in Baltimore and the Boston guys were playing in Boston, and the league might have been at the time maybe 85% American. By the time when I finished playing those pro years, the league starts to move to all Canadian, and less Americans are getting the opportunity to play. And I feel like they kind of get shorted the opportunity by not playing box to maybe develop their games to other levels. Is that something like now? I don't know. I mean, these guys, obviously they're playing. Some of them I know go to Canada now to go play.
The kid Spallina has been 3 years in Canada now.
And I think he's doing himself a great service in his overall lacrosse ability, confidence-wise.
I agree with that.
Skill-wise. I mean, I don't think as many guys do that. And I think if there was more of a box presence in the United States, I think it would even be developing. Because when you see the Canadian players in college, you're always like, wow, this guy's really good. And that guy, there's a sense of playing a team game in box and using the other players around you that I don't think you get from how field is presented to young kids, where it is more about the athleticism. It is more about the one-on-one matchup compared to working within that team structure. And I think box forces you to learn that, because it's not a one-on-one game, box. It's moving the ball around. It's trying to gain that middle of the field and quick shots and pick and roll.
Well, let me ask this, Tommy, when you're training at IMG, do you ever have your guys play any indoor style, play indoor?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we go to this place 20 minutes from campus called Ellington Sports Rink, and we play box lacrosse in the fall and winter. that's kind of shutting down. So we're actually looking right now. I got blueprints and plans to build our own here. Like I'm going to have like a nice roof system with fans and lights at night and a full outdoor box the way I grew up playing with fencing around so the ball doesn't bounce out. Oh yeah, box is huge. And I'm going to make my girls. We have two girls teams. We have a national girls team and a regional team. We have a boys national and we have a boys junior national. They're all going to be playing box lacrosse. They're going to train in the fall, train in the winter. So they're going to get better. Even the attackmen that don't normally run that much, they'll have to go back and play some defense. Up and down the floor, like you have to two-way. Not like the lazy way of lacrosse that, when I grew up playing box lacrosse in Canada, if you didn't know how to play two-way, if you didn't know how to play defense, you're not playing.
Right.
And later in life, now they're shoving guys off. They're shoving guys off the offense. You lose the ball on offense. You get on. They shove the defense in the back gate. But the real way to play it, when I grew up, if you're not in shape, like basketball, and you not get back and play defense, you're not going to play. I don't care if you score 7 goals a game. You have to learn to play defense. So I think it helps. I think it helps Americans, not just with their cardiovascular, just to understand the game better and pick and rolls. And if you watch the box, the Canadians have the knack where they're bringing the ball across and they'll like look this way and they'll throw it in on you. The kid could be covered right here with 2 guys on them. They don't care. They're going to pass it to you. They're going to catch it and they're going to finish.
Can I jump in here for a second? That's where I think the Americans got better. That's where I always tell them, the guys that shoot, I can tell if they're Canadian or American. I don't even know the players. When they get in the goal, they move the goalie. They move the stick so much better than the Americans. That's why in the 60s that's coming up, they're going to blow everybody out. That's my opinion. No one's even going to come close to Canada in the 60s coming up. Not even close because of that. The stick movement is so much valuable. They're getting better. Like you guys said, the Americans, but nothing compares to that, the Canadians. And that's what we could learn from them. And I don't see if they're really teaching that or whatever. Maybe you guys know better. Go ahead, Stephen.
Well, I want to talk about Sixers, but before we get off the box, I want to go a little. Maybe this will be controversial. I don't know how controversial it will be. If you got a chance to see the women's, the Americans beat the Canadians in the women's box final. Now, the thing I found, first of all, I'll say this: they were really kind of playing wild all over the place. Maybe not as structured as what the men's game, the feel of looking, but it was super exciting game. They're playing with deep pockets. They handling sticks as good as men could handle them in many cases. I mean, they really looked good doing it, checking, knocking people over. My question is, could we move the women's game, even a college women's game, to wear equipment and play lacrosse? Because they seem to deal with it fine. It was a more exciting game than even any of the women's games that you watch, traditional women's. And I know your wife was a very spectacular women's player. I wonder what her thoughts would be on this. But they seem to want to play with the equipment, some of these women.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. I'll tell you a quick little story. Back in the 90s, Gary Gate was a assistant coach for the University of Maryland women's team. A lot of people don't know that. He was actually the assistant coach for Maryland women's, and he won 7 championships in a row as an assistant. And that was all because of him. Cindy Timshaw, she's a Navy's head coach now. Great lady, unbelievable leader. But Gary's the one that took that boys' philosophy of stick work, stick handling, shooting, and got those Maryland girls to
a point where he won 7. Say that again for the fans. I got lost.
7 NCAA Division I national championships. University of Maryland women's.
He coached women's at Maryland.
Yes,
he coached women's
at Maryland.
He won 7.
Yeah. He won 7. And I used to go watch practice, and those girls were good.
That's crazy.
But I'll tell you, a lot of those girls are not as good as the girls today. Like Steven said, a lot of the girls today are athletic, faster. They're amazing. And that's what bringing back the pad situation is. I think you got a point. I think if you talk to a lot of girls, they would love to put the pads on and play real hard-nosed lacrosse and just, play with the guys. Like
I actually think they would, if they put the helmets and the pads on them for field lacrosse and let the colleges women play lacrosse. I think they'd build
Now you're getting,
faster fan bases.
I hate to jump in. Now you're getting fucking, excuse me, that's supposed to, you're getting nuts now. So now you want
What?
men playing in women's sports? I don't agree with that stuff.
No,
What?
no.
The other way around.
Sport.
He's watching too many rallies. He's watching too many rallies. Slow down.
You want men to,
Slow down.
I don't go for
I'm
that.
saying-
I'm sorry.
Saying, have you seen it, Smalls?
Tommy, that has
Smalls,
to be a big
pay
debate.
attention. Wait a minute,
Whether men
wait a
can
minute.
play in women's sports. I don't agree with it. Those guys agree
You're
with
not
it.
listening. Will you
Stop
listen for
talking.
2 seconds? You
I'm
don't
not
listen.
talking- I'm talking about
Listen.
women's
Listen.
It's
sports.
all about women putting on pads and playing.
No.
Why are you
And
No.
playing
yelling?
against women.
Why are you yelling,
And playing
Maricek?
against women.
Why-
Girls are playing against each other, girls. Steven's just saying, why don't just put the pads on the girls and play the regular men's style of field lacrosse? Because they're all athletic and good anyways, and put a deep pocket in girl sticks because they all can stick kind of
you
like the
should
guys.
play
Three guys
against
before
men.
that. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
You three guys
I would
before
be.
that. I think
would
you're
be.
nuts, all 3 years.
I still don't
Didn't
think
even
he,
understand.
he still doesn't even understand what we're talking about.
Vin,
just so you
explain
know.
it to him, please.
I know
Vin,
You
Vin,
want to
Vin,
explain it?
That's
He's
not
saying-
that's not the
listen,
woman's sport.
there's
The
been-
most women would
there-
go for that with helmets on.
Well, I'll tell you.
They knocked it down. They came up for approval and they knocked it
girl-
down.
The girls
guys,
are
I got-
playing. The girls
I got
playing
2
today.
minutes.
Okay.
Steve, I have 10 minutes left, just to
I
let you
got
know.
you.
Okay. The girls
We're good.
playing today. Let me just explain it. The girls playing today are so athletic and so skilled and can shoot the ball so hard. There's worries that there's a danger. They're playing without helmets, right?
Yeah.
These girls
Right.
get hit in the face with a ball, and so how do some of these girls shoot today? Forget it. You break your jaw.
No,
in
you're
2
right.
seconds,
You're right. I
break
understand.
your jaw.
Let's move on
So-
quick. He's
so
got
they-
10 minutes. Move on.
So they've been. Why do you do this?
No, he's only got 10 minutes.
Come
baby.
up with numbskull things, and then you
All
want to
right,
move
come
on.
on.
all of a
Then
sudden.
says move on. All right.
Well, no, be quiet for a second, will you? What he's saying is, I think that there is something to be said after watching that indoor with those girls playing with the helmets and all.
That's right.
It is a pretty exciting brand of lacrosse, and if they with modified rules, I mean, look, men's modified rules. You can't hit a guy after he shoots today. How many times, Tommy, when you took a shot back in the day, you got crushed after you shot it?
Yeah.
Now, if you take 2 steps or whatever, they hit you. They drop a flag all the time. You probably,
Right.
your production would probably go up 30% if you're not ever worried about getting hit. So
Right.
it's just that I almost think the girls going that route is a safety thing. I mean, I honestly get nervous watching girls' games with no helmets and nothing on because the way their skills are
Yeah.
now, how hard they can. That girl Charlotte North, she probably shoots harder than I ever did.
Yeah. No, you're right, Vinny. You're right, and I think gauging my girls here. We have 40 girls in for 2 teams. We get more injuries in girls lacrosse than we do in boys. Like literally, these girls are playing tough, and you're allowed to put your hands together and push off when you're running up the field. But
Tough,
there's
right,
sticks
tough.
flying. There's sticks flying left and right, and they have goggles, but you're hitting the goggle that cuts your eye anyways.
Yeah.
It's a lot of.
I go on record. I say, put the equipment on the women. Let the women play against the women, like they did up in that World Championship, because it was an exciting brand of lacrosse. USA won by a goal or something. It was tremendous lacrosse. It was exciting. I think they would grow the fan base. That's how I feel about that. I know the traditionalists probably hate it. They don't even, they won't even let you put a shell on their head.
Oh, hey, I'll tell you, the traditionalists in women's lacrosse, I go back to the 50s and 60s, they hated Gary Gate.
Well, I'm sure.
They hated men coming over, taking over their sport.
Sure.
That's what I'm
They-
saying.
Gary would come home and tell me nightmares about
Right.
what they would say to him. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? You're trying to just help and expand the game. He goes,
Right.
Tommy, they don't look at it that way.
Maricek, I'm putting you on the spot right now. Just a couple of quick things. It's just one answer. It's not going to hurt you. You're starting a team. You're picking a team. Gary Gate or Jim Brown. One or the other.
Gary Gate.
Okay, that's good. That's good. What else? What else you guys got? He's got 5 minutes left, Vinny. Go ahead.
Well, I want to lastly talk about the Sixers.
You gave him one question.
I got a few more, but I don't want to clog everything
Go ahead.
up.
Go ahead. Ask him. Go ahead, ask him.
Are you playing
Give me a
today,
question.
Coach? You're playing today, right now. You're playing today. Who are you playing for? Who do you want to go? Are you going to Maryland? Say you're getting drafted. Other than Syracuse, what team would you like to play for today? Other than Cuse.
Small. I have to say Syracuse, Smalls.
But other than Syracuse, if you didn't go there.
Okay. I want to go to Sunshine, so maybe Carolina.
Yeah.
Somewhere warm. I'm so used to being down here for 5 years now. I gotta be somewhere warm.
Blood's thin. Your blood thinned out.
Yeah. I did. I'm thin.
And the last thing I want to say, and I'm done here. These guys can take over the whole time. I was supposed to look you up, and I only got a short time to look who you are up. But I did find something very interesting. What does your wife say? Is she from Philly?
She's from Philadelphia, yes.
And she likes Philly cheesecake. Well, Philly cheesecake is my favorite. I'm a big eater. I'm about 290, Vinny says now. I love Philly cheesecake. And did you ever go to D'Alessandro's?
D'Alessandro's is my top
That's
3.
That's the number one.
My number 1 is a place called Ishkabibbles on South Street.
I never made that. That's good.
You got to try Ishkabibbles. It's my in-laws live right there in Society Hill, 5th and Delancey. So when we go visit, Ishkabibbles is where I go.
All in like old houses. I used to go with Fat Matt there. But go ahead. I'm done. Go ahead.
So the last thing I leave you off with is, obviously lacrosse is going to make its way back into the Olympics for 2028, and they're using this sixes style, which to be honest, I'm not a super fan of. I know there's reasons why they doing it all, but what would you say in terms of the advantages or disadvantages for Canada compared to U.S. with the sixes? What do you think the main things? Well, how should they even? I've heard they're talking about 10-man rosters, because people talk about different guys to make the team. I'm like, well, you only got 10 guys. Like, are you taking two-way guys? Are you taking an offensive guy? What kind of defensive guy are you taking? How do you think that's going to look?
Obviously stick work is everything. I think it's still an advantage for Canada in that small setting, 6-on-6. You really don't need the best defensemen that usually have a 6-foot pole. You need guys that can be athletic and have good sticks. And the one thing I do wish they did change in the sixes is shorten the goal a little bit. Those poor goalies don't have a chance in hell.
Yeah, they should go to a 5x5, I think.
Vinny, 5x5 as I had it written down years ago. 5x5 would be a lot more better. It just gives goalie a chance. It's just when you score, the goalie reaches in, grabs the ball out, they throw it back up. I wish they had something different. I think shortening the goal would be one step.
They did think about that. They want scoring though, Tommy, in the game for the fans. That did come up in the meetings. That came up.
Well, of course. They don't want Princeton
You're
out
right.
there.
You guys are right.
They don't want Tierney coaching Princeton where you carry the ball behind for 7 hours and they don't want that. Yeah.
Well, think about the fact that the era you played in. Think about with no shot clock. Think about if teams had to play faster, how many points you guys would have put up at Syracuse.
Oh yeah, I know, because that was our game, right? Vinny, that was run and gun, and we, Matt Palin makes a save, throws it at Pat McCabe, throws it down to a streak and Gary Gate, throws it to Burns or whoever on attack. That was our game. We didn't score. If you looked at stats, I would say probably it has to be at least 65% was unsettled situations when we played back then.
Oh, you guys were great.
What was your nickname in college?
It was Hollywood.
Oh, Jesus. Vinny, you stole Vinny's name. His buddy was Hollywood. Who was Hollywood, Vinny?
Metzger, James Metzger, my teammate. He called him Hollywood, too.
Guys, I got to cut.
Hey, Tom, I want to say thank you for coming. I just want to say for anybody who listened to this, if you have a chance, look up Tom Marechek, his highlights, because he was incredible. One of the greatest scorers I ever saw, and a guy that, you could rely on when you threw him the ball to do something right with it after. And, for the guys who don't, look back and see these things, they should. And these kids should watch because they can learn a lot from the way you played the game.
Good luck, Tommy. We appreciate you.
Guys, thank you. A lot of good memories right here.
Hey, Tommy, we usually ended up with one shout out. It could be anybody in your life. a kid. Just one shout out, Vinny. Go ahead. Who's your shout out today? Mine's going to Gary Gate and Paul Gate, the brothers. That's my shout out. Go ahead, Steven.
My shout out's going to John Phillips, recently passed away. Wouldn't have had Long Island Lacrosse Club. We're going to have a celebration of life for him November 2nd in Manhasset. You know, it wouldn't have been Long Island, couldn't have been Long Island without John Phillips. He was basically the glue that kept everything
Go
together.
ahead, Vinny, then Marichek.
My shout out is to Tom for coming on, and we appreciate it and getting a different perspective. So I'm shouting out Tom.
Thank you, Vinny. My shout out is to my really good friend, brother to me, prayers always, and that's Paul Gate. Paul's full up.
Oh,
and down,
man.
so prayers to my brother, Paul Gate.
Yeah, what a dude he was. He came out last year for the one of the games with us, right, Vin? He came out in the big van.
Yeah,
Syracuse game. All right, thank you
All
again,
right,
Tommy.
guys.
We love you, bro.
Gotta work. Thank you, Tom. Be well.
Thank you, brother.